Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine while walking alone in the woods? A feeling that you're being watched, even when you're sure no one is there. For most of us, it's just our imagination playing tricks. But for a group of 4 friends, that chilling feeling became a terrifying reality they would never forget. This is the story of their trip to Blackwood Forest and the forgotten cabin that holds a dark, centuries-old secret. Our story begins with 4 college friends: Liam, the adventurous leader; Maya, the sensible one who always came prepared; Chloe, the group's bubbly artist; and Ben, the quiet, observant photographer. Seeking a final adventure before graduation, they decided on a weekend camping trip deep in the infamous Blackwood Forest. Locals whispered tales about the forest, stories of people who went in but never came out. But the friends dismissed them as folklore, meant to scare tourists away. They packed their bags filled with excitement and a healthy dose of skepticism, ready for what they thought would be a simple getaway. Their first day was perfect. They hiked for hours, surrounded by the stunning beauty of ancient trees and the symphony of nature. As dusk began to settle, casting long, eerie shadows across the trail, they realized they might have ventured a bit too far. A sudden, unexpected storm rolled in, the sky turning a bruised purple. Rain began to pour, drenching them in minutes. Disoriented and cold, they desperately looked for shelter. It was Ben, peering through his camera lens, who spotted it first. A small, dilapidated cabin, almost swallowed by the overgrown woods. It looked like it hadn't been touched in 100 years. With no other option, they decided to take refuge inside. The cabin door creaked open with a haunting groan, revealing a single dusty room. A thick layer of cobwebs covered everything, and the air was heavy with the smell of damp earth and decay. In the center of the room stood a rickety wooden table with 4 chairs. On the wall hung a faded, tattered portrait of a family: a grim-faced man, a sorrowful woman, and 2 young children with hollow, staring eyes. Despite the strange atmosphere, the friends were just grateful to be out of the storm. They started a fire in the old stone fireplace, its warm glow pushing back the encroaching darkness. As they huddled together, they tried to laugh off their unease, joking about whose turn it was to encounter a ghost first. They had no idea how close to the truth they were. As the night deepened, strange things began to happen. A faint, sorrowful whisper seemed to weave through the howling wind outside. At first, they blamed it on the storm, on old wood settling, but then the whispers grew clearer. They sounded like a woman humming a lullaby, a sad, broken tune that made their skin crawl. Chloe, who had been sketching in her notebook, suddenly gasped. The drawing she had just made of the cabin now had a shadowy figure standing in the doorway, a figure that wasn't there when she drew it. Liam, trying to be the brave leader, went to investigate the windows, but all he saw was the raging storm. Then a loud bang echoed from the corner of the room. One of the chairs at the table had been knocked over, yet no one was near it. Panic began to set in. Maya, ever the pragmatist, decided they needed to understand what was happening. She began searching the cabin for clues. Tucked away in a dusty chest, she found an old leather-bound diary. The pages were brittle, the ink faded, but the writing was still legible. It belonged to a woman named Ilara, the woman from the portrait. As Maya read aloud, the friends learned the tragic history of the cabin. Ilara and her family had lived there in the late 1800s. They were ostracized by the nearby village, accused of witchcraft after a series of misfortunes befell the townsfolk. The diary spoke of their isolation, their fear, and a terrible curse placed upon them. The final entry was chilling. Ilara wrote that the villagers were coming for them, armed with fire and hatred. She wrote, "They will not take my children. Our spirits will remain, bound to this home, and any who disturb our peace will share our fate." As Maya read the last sentence, the fire in the fireplace suddenly roared to life, casting terrifying dancing shadows on the walls. The temperature in the cabin plummeted. The whispers turned into agonized screams, and the faint humming became a wail of despair. The portrait on the wall seemed to change. The family's eyes now glowed, with an eerie, resentful light. The friends were paralyzed with fear. They could feel the presence of the family, their anger and sorrow pressing in on them from all sides. The cabin doors slammed shut, and the windows rattled as if something was trying to get in, or keep them from getting out. Ben, trying to capture evidence with his camera, saw ghostly apparitions of the two children in his viewfinder, their faces pale and their eyes empty, pointing towards the friends. It was a night of pure terror. The spirits of the family tormented them relentlessly. Objects flew across the room, the ghostly children's laughter echoed from the rafters, and the mournful cries of Alara filled their ears. They felt invisible hands grabbing at their clothes, pulling their hair. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Every creak of the floorboards sent a fresh wave of fear through them. They were trapped, forced to endure the family's relived agony and rage. Liam tried to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge, as if held by an unseen force. They were prisoners in the cursed cabin, and they realized the family didn't want them to just leave. They wanted them to stay, to become part of the curse forever. Just as they thought they would never see the light of day again, a sliver of dawn broke through the grimy windows. As the first rays of sun touched the cabin, the paranormal activity abruptly ceased. The screams faded, the air warmed, and an unnatural silence fell over the room. The door, which had been sealed shut all night, swung open on its own. Wasting no time, the four friends scrambled out of the cabin, not daring to look back. They ran without stopping, fueled by adrenaline and terror, until they burst out of the forest and back onto the main road, leaving the woods and the cursed cabin behind them. They never spoke in detail about what happened that night, not even to each other. The experience left deep, invisible scars. Chloe stopped drawing. Ben put his camera away for good. Liam lost his adventurous spirit, and Maya became withdrawn, haunted by the words she read in Ilara's diary. They knew they hadn't just stumbled upon a haunted house. They had trespassed upon a place of immense sorrow and anger, a place bound by a powerful curse. The forgotten cabin in Blackwood Forest remains, waiting in silence for its next unwitting visitors. The story serves as a chilling warning. Some places are left forgotten for a reason, and some secrets are best left undisturbed. So next time you're in the woods and you hear a strange whisper on the wind or feel a sudden chill, remember the story of the forgotten cabin. Some legends are more than just stories. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there. Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine while walking through the woods? That feeling of being watched when no one is there? Stories of haunted forests are as old as time, but some places hold secrets darker than others. Today we're journeying deep into the Blackwood Forest, a place whispered about in hushed tones, to uncover the chilling tale of the forgotten cabin. Legend says that over a century ago, a family known as the Hawthorns built a small cabin deep within these woods. They were pioneers, seeking solitude and a new life. But the forest, it seems, had other plans. The story begins innocently enough. The Hawthorns, Elias, his wife Clara, and their two young children, Samuel and Lily, were happy at first. They lived off the land, isolated but content. But as the first winter approached, a strange sickness fell upon the family. It wasn't a cold or a fever known to doctors. It was a creeping dread, a paranoia that turned them against each other. Locals from the nearest town, miles away, said they could sometimes hear faint, sorrowful cries carried on the wind. Elias, once a strong and gentle man, became withdrawn and hostile. Clara was seen wandering the edges of the woods, talking to herself, her eyes wide with fear. The children, once full of life, were rarely seen at all. One day a hunter tracking a deer stumbled upon the cabin. The silence was what struck him first. It was an unnatural, heavy quiet. The door was slightly ajar. Peeking inside, he found the cabin in disarray. The table was set for a meal that was never eaten, now covered in dust and cobwebs. There was no sign of the Hawthorns. they had simply vanished. All that remained was a single child's drawing on the floor, a crude sketch of their cabin, but with tall, shadowy figures looming over it, their long arms like branches reaching for the windows. The townspeople organized a search party, but the deep woods seemed to swallow them up. Compasses spun wildly, paths disappeared, and an overwhelming sense of dread forced them to turn back. The cabin was left to rot, and the hawthorns were never seen again. It became known as the Forgotten Cabin, a place cursed by whatever malevolent force resides in Blackwood Forest. Years turned into decades. The story became a local legend, a ghost story told around campfires to scare kids, but some were drawn to the mystery. In the 1970s, a group of 4 college students, paranormal enthusiasts armed with cameras and audio recorders, decided to spend a night in the cabin. They documented their journey, hoping to capture proof of the haunting. Their footage is the stuff of nightmares. At first it was just strange noises, the sound of footsteps circling the cabin, whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves, and the distinct sound of a child crying in the distance. As night fell, things escalated. Their equipment began to malfunction. The temperature inside the cabin plummeted, their breath visible in the frigid air. One of the students, a young woman named Sarah, started screaming that she saw a face in the window, a pale, gaunt face with hollow eyes. The audio recordings captured what sounds like a woman humming a lullaby, followed by a man's guttural growl. The most terrifying piece of evidence was a short video clip filmed just before they fled. The camera pans wildly around the dark interior of the cabin. For a split second, a small, shadowy figure darts across the room. It's blurry, but undeniably there. The group ran from the cabin in sheer terror, leaving most of their equipment behind. They told the local sheriff they felt a presence trying to trap them, an unseen force that wanted them to stay forever. The legend only grew stronger. People who ventured too close to the area reported feeling disoriented, hearing their names whispered from the trees, and seeing fleeting shadows in their peripheral vision. Hikers have gone missing in Blackwood Forest far more often than in surrounding areas, with many of the disappearances happening near the supposed location of the cabin. But what is the source of this curse? Some believe it's the spirits of the Hawthorne family, trapped in a loop of their final terrifying days, forever bound to the land. They say the spirit of Elias, driven mad by the forest's influence, jealously guards the cabin while Clara and the children endlessly search for a way to escape. Their despair is said to be so powerful that it infects anyone who stays too long. Another theory is much older. It suggests the Hawthorns didn't bring the curse, they awakened it. Local Native American lore speaks of an ancient, malevolent entity that lives in the heart of the forest, a nature spirit that despises intruders. This entity can manipulate the minds of those who trespass, twisting their perceptions and feeding on their fear until it consumes them entirely. The shadowy figures in the child's drawing might not have been ghosts, but a depiction of this ancient being. According to this version, the Hawthorns weren't just a lost family, they were a sacrifice. In the early 2000s, a seasoned wilderness guide and skeptic named Ben Carter decided to debunk the myth once and for all. He was an expert survivalist and knew the woods better than anyone. He planned a solo 3-day expedition to find the cabin, document its exact location, and prove it was nothing more than an old, dilapidated building. He live-blogged his journey for the first day. His posts started off confident and a little mocking. His first entry read, "Day 1 in Blackwood. The only spirits out here are in my flask. Weather is clear. Making good time." By the evening of the first day, his tone had changed. "Something's off. My GPS is failing. Keep feeling like I'm walking in circles. The woods are loud tonight. Probably just animals." His last post, sent late that night, was just 3 words: "They're not sleeping." Ben Carter was never heard from again. His camera was found a year later by a park ranger, miles from where he was supposed to be. The memory card was corrupted, but a single distorted image was recovered. It shows the blurry interior of a log cabin and in the corner what looks like the pale, gaunt face of a woman, her mouth open in a silent scream. So what really happened to the hawthorns? And what is the entity that still haunts Blackwood Forest? Is it a family of tormented souls, or something far older and more sinister? The Forgotten Cabin stands as a silent testament to a tragedy that has never ended. It's a reminder that some places in this world are best left undisturbed, their secrets buried deep beneath the roots of ancient trees. The woods are watching, and they remember. Next time you find yourself on a quiet forest path, listen closely. You might just hear the faint cry of a lost child or the whisper of a name on the wind, a ghostly invitation to a place from which you might never return. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the dark heart of Blackwood Forest. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the unknown. Stay safe and stay curious.